I just got back from my second trip to Lowe's in less than 24 hours, and that's because nobody on the internet agrees how to insulate these vans, and there's no standard because most people don't live or work out of a van. And so my new tactic is that I just bought everything on the shelf at Lowe's, and I'll return what I don't need, and I'm just gonna stick it all in here, move on, because I got a timeline. So I'm gonna get to that, but before I do, I wanted to go through the different options for a van conversion and why I chose the Promaster, just in case anyone else is in the market to buy one for themselves. So there's 3 different options if you want to get a high top roof, and I was adamant that I had to have a high top roof. I understand that there are other vans. There's Chevys, and I've seen people do minivans, and those are low top or medium top roofs. They're much easier to find. They're considered passenger vehicles, so it's a lot easier to insure. Everything is easier about those because they're more common. But if I'm working in here, I want to be able to stand up, and I'm only 5'2", so I feel like I've earned the right to be able to stand up in most spaces. So what is available for a high top roof are the Sprinters, the Mercedes Sprinters, the Ram Promasters, and those come in a 1500, 2500, or 3500 versions, and then the Ford Transits. So initially I was hell-bent that I had to have a Mercedes Sprinter because that's what all the hippies on Instagram have. They have Mercedes Sprinters, and I have test driven these. When you're sitting in these, you feel like a fancy bitch. I mean, everything is much nicer. It's a Mercedes, it's a luxury vehicle, it's a luxury brand. They have more USB cables, the layout is nicer. It just feels fancier. And it is a fancier price tag. But because I had seen so many van conversions done with Sprinters, and because it was such a nice ride, I was set that's what I was going to get. And the only reason that today I do not have a Sprinter is because I had a nightmarish experience at the dealership. It was a fight for 2 weeks. I won't go into all of it. There's also a couple other things about Sprinters that you really should know if you're going to get one. Sprinters, Mercedes, German. It is a German engineered car, so those are German parts, right? So everything I'm about to say I was willing to forgive because I liked the vehicle so much, but you do need to understand this when you're getting a Sprinter, and it's not wildly talked about because people are so cult-like about their Sprinters. But when you own a Mercedes Sprinter, they don't make a lot of those. So you're dealing with a very specific, very unique car. Only a Mercedes trained Sprinter technician can work on it. So if something goes wrong, you better hope that you're by a Mercedes dealership and that Mercedes dealership happens to have a trained technician to work on a Sprinter. If you don't have 1 or 2 of those, I don't know what you do, because it's a diesel engine and it's very specific to that brand. So you can't just pull into Jimmy's roadside auto shop and have someone work on your Sprinter. It doesn't work that way. Owning it is more expensive. We're talking $300, $350 oil changes. For $350 oil change, you better be changing the oil in this car and then buying me dinner. That's bullshit. That is so much money, but it's because it's a diesel engine and it's a very specific, very fancy, highly engineered engine and associated EMS, emissions system. So diesel engine, EPA changed the emission standards a couple years ago, and when they did that, the Sprinter had to have this wildly complicated emission system attached to the engine. And if you do any kind of research about that system, it tends to break, it can be faulty. Granted, you're only hearing people on the internet who are complaining, not all the people who are driving and don't have problems. Oop, gosh, tripod foul. Hold on. Back in business. Oh god. Damn it to hell. This thing is also faulty. Alright, anyway. You just need to know going into it that if it does break, or if you do have an issue with the DEF, the diesel emission fluid, that whole setup, it's not cheap. Alright, so then I had 2 options left. I had the Ram Promaster and the Ford Transit. I really wanted the Ford Transit. It had slightly better reviews in terms of reliability. It had a higher roof. It was not as wide, and that kind of sucked because I wanted to be able to put a mattress across the back. But Ford, I was going to be able to find a dealership just about everywhere. I like Fords. The only reason that I didn't get a Ford is because a high roof Ford Transit in Wilmington, North Carolina, it was the equivalent of finding a three-legged unicorn. I mean, I couldn't find one of these things anywhere. I was going to have to go to Charlotte or Raleigh or Virginia, and I'm on a timeline. So since there wasn't a whole lot of difference except for a couple inches of space and a little bit of difference on reliability, I ended up really hunting down the Promaster. This is perfect for me. It's nice and wide, it's long, it has the high roof, it has storage above, it has lots of cup holders, it has USB ports, you're up nice and high. I really think that this is just a great vehicle to be converting and working out of, and sometimes using as a crash pad if need be. Of the Promasters, keep three different options in mind. You have the 1500, the 2500, and the 3500. This is a 2500. There's a couple $1,000 difference in between them. The difference is how long they are and how much they will tow. And when you are in the 1500 and then you go stand inside a 2500, you know immediately that the 1500 is a substantially smaller vehicle. And it's hard when you're standing there to think, do I want to spend a couple more grand to have, I think I measured it out to about 1.5 feet extra space. But you know, you got to keep in mind a lot of stuff has to go in here. So that 1.5 feet, if we were talking like 3 or 4 inches, maybe no big deal, but 1.5 feet, I mean, that's a good amount of workspace that you are giving up, and I just thought it would be worth it to get the 2500. The 2500 is also going to tow a whole lot more. I forget the exact measurements of which one will tow which, but the 2500 would tow more, and I do intend on getting a little trailer for the back eventually once I learn how to drive this without scaring other people on the road, which could take a while. The 3500, I didn't even see one at the dealership, but the reason that I didn't get that one, even though it would be more space, is because it doesn't fit in a standard parking space. And just driving this one, you lose some of the versatility of just being able to tuck into a parking spot. The 3500 is going to stick out a whole lot more. And the whole reason that I got this was to be able to stealth park it and have an easier time maneuvering it by myself. It's why I didn't get an RV, among many other reasons. So it just seemed like, yeah, I'd get more space, but I'd be giving up a lot of other really important aspects with the 3500. So I went with the 2500, and you're looking at a price tag new of between like $33,000 and $43,000 on a brand new Promaster. And the last part that I'll go into is new or used, because there's a huge price tag difference between them, although not massive, which makes me think that maybe these don't depreciate as much as other cars. So I've looked at both, a used Promaster and a brand new. I ultimately obviously got the brand new, but when you're looking at a cargo van, especially a high top, that is a work vehicle, okay? That is not some grocery getter that somebody kept in their garage real nice and babied and took care of, and it still feels new. These are work cars. So every single one of all the versions that I saw that were used, they were used hard. I mean, they were beat up. And that makes sense, because that is the purpose of this vehicle, is to be a work car. But if I'm gonna do all this work to outfit it and put thousands of dollars worth of materials in here, and you know, have it for work and take it on the road, I really didn't feel comfortable getting something that had been abused that much. So what I did was I took a used version and then the new version and looked at costs for the next 5 years and immediate to see how far apart they were and whether it was worth it. Most of the people on, again, these hippies on Instagram and everywhere else who do van conversions, they get like some dirt cheap van that's beat all to hell, and then they fix it all up and they deal with the rust and they deal with the mechanical issues, and I just don't have time for that, and I'm not handy for that. I can tell you all about renovating houses. Hell, if I know anything about fixing a vehicle. I'm just amazed that the thing still starts when I turn it on. Like, that's a good day for me. So I didn't want to go into all that replacing fuses and hoses and whatever uzzes there are in these vehicles. It's just not my thing. And dealing with rust, if you buy a vehicle that already has rust, I'm gonna pray for you, because rust is insidious. It just, once it's there, it's really hard to contain, to mediate, and then to prevent from getting worse. So God bless those people. It wasn't for me, and it also didn't fit my timeline. I already have enough work to do. I did not have time to be back there sanding and painting and fixing all that other stuff. So that was really a turn off to me with the used vehicles. But way less on the price tag. So if you're handy with cars, maybe go for it. If you're like me, I wouldn't even think about it. So again, you buy a used one, chances are it's going to be road hard. So you're going to have all that extra work, all that time, and then everything else you've got to fix. You're also, if it has high mileage on it, you are way closer. We all know with a vehicle, the higher the miles get, there's more maintenance and more expensive maintenance. You're replacing brake pads, you're replacing tires, you're getting closer down the line to some of the bigger price tag maintenance issues. So, you got to kind of scoot that a little bit closer now to how much more you're paying right on the front end just to get this thing in working order. For me, I like when I have a new car, I want to have some kind of warranty. Bumper to bumper, powertrain, something. My little teeny tiny Scion, we've been together since 2004. I know that car like the back of my hand. I know how she sounds. I know when something's wrong. With a new vehicle, you don't know anything about it, right? You got to get to know each other. So I definitely wanted some kind of warranty, especially if it was used. I'm getting tired. So now add at least $2,000 on the Sprinter. I think it was $5,000 for a warranty. So, now you're a little bit closer, and now you're, several grand off used and new. And when I looked at that, and I looked at everything that I would be getting with a new vehicle, including an extensive powertrain, an extensive bumper to bumper, ultimately, I went with the new Promaster. I have no regrets. I think it's going to be money well spent. So that is how I got to the Babe Bus. I hope that helped. Obviously, you're not new to the internet, so there's a comment section. You can comment there, or if you go on babecavebuilds.com, where all of this is going to be hosted, you can send me an email there, or any questions you have about the different versions and where to find them and what to look for. I certainly hope that someone else can benefit from the 2 or 3 months of stress and Xanax that went into me finally picking out my van for conversion. So good luck, and I'm gonna get to work.